Hello everybody. In this video we're going to be going over some different photo manipulation methods, starting with the spot healing tool. So the spot healing tool can be found right on your toolbar, and it's usually identified as this little tool with the little band-aid on it. And you'll notice that once you click that tool, the properties of the spot healing tool are similar to a brush. For example, if you go up on the top left, you can see that you can change the size of it and the hardness. And you can actually change the size of your brush similar to the way that you can do it with the brush tool with those bracket keys to make it a lot easier when you are, on the go and using the spot healing tool. Now let's get to what we use the spot healing tool for. Now, usually it's used to fix imperfections. So right now we're looking at a picture of Post Malone's face, and obviously he is flawless, but sometimes in photo shoots, especially for movies and stuff like that, you have to be able to remove things like tattoos. So that's what we're going to use the spot healing tool for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that the brush is just a little bit bigger than the area that I'm trying to get rid of. So for example, if I'm trying to get rid of these two spots on his nose, I want to make sure that the tattoo can fit kind of comfortably in there with a little bit of space in between. And then I'm just going to click once, and you're going to see it's going to turn like a black transparent color. And then you'll see it just totally disappears. And we'll try that again. All right. Super, super simple. So that's how it works for spots. So a lot of times you'll see people use this for like blemishes on the face, right? Now, for something a little bit more complex, like maybe this like stay away tattoo, what I suggest doing is just kind of like tracing the area. Again, we want to make sure that we're covering it all with a little bit of sampling area from the skin, because that's how that artificial intelligence determines what to fill this area up with. So I'm just kind of tracing the area a little bit, and then you'll see that comes off really nicely. Something you really want to avoid, especially in areas where there's hair, is going over the hair part. Because if you notice, I'm going over the hair right now, and let's see what happens. It kind of starts to take parts of the hair and spreads it down. So like, especially if I go down in this eyebrow part, right, it starts to bring the eyebrow up. So we want to be super careful with that, and just make sure you're really precise with where you're drawing. All right, so before we move on from the spot healing tool, I just want to show you guys one more thing that the spot healing tool is really, really helpful for. In our everyday photography, there's a lot of times where like a photo will be so perfect, but we just want to get rid of one thing, right? And the spot healing tool is really, really good for that. So for example, let's say I just wanted this little boat to be kind of like the focal point of the entire photo, right? And I just want to get rid of all these other distractions. What I would do is I would go in with my spot healing tool, and then I would just draw over those other little boats. All right, so now we're going to move on to the Liquify tool. Now, the Liquify tool takes photo manipulation to another level. What I'm going to have you guys do is go up to the filter menu, and you're going to see it's going to say liquify ... Okay, so I'm going to click that, and what's going to happen is it's going to open up the photo in kind of like a second Photoshop, right? It has a different toolbar, and it has a set of properties over on the right side. So let's look at those properties on the right side, because they're kind of helpful. This is called Face Aware Liquify. So this is kind of like a simplified version of what I'm about to show you, but essentially what it does is it takes a look at your photo and it finds all these different parts of the person's face. For example, the eyes. It gives you these little scales, and you can actually move these scales to change the size of the eyes, the height of the eyes, even the distance between the eyes. It's a simple way of doing it. Unfortunately, you can't do anything really extreme with this, but this is good if you just want to do like very slight touch-ups. But for now, we're going to actually go over to the left and look at the toolbar, and these are the tools that we're going to mess around with during this demo. Alright, so let's take a look at these tools. So the first tool that I want to show you guys is the bloat and pucker tool, and that's these tools right here. So bloat is basically the tool that you use to make things bigger, whereas the pucker tool is what you use to make things smaller. Let's start with the bloat tool, and you'll notice that your brush starts off kind of like same as that spot healing brush that we were just looking at, so we can use the brackets to bring the size down. And what I like to do with the bloat tool is make the brush about the same size as the part of the photo that I'm trying to make bigger. And then I'll just click a couple times, especially like on the eye areas, right? And it gets like it actually gives kind of like a nice natural effect. Obviously this looks super crazy, but you kind of get the point. So that's the bloat tool. Let's go to our pucker tool, and this time I will go over the nose, and I'll click a couple times, and you'll notice that it does pretty much the exact opposite. It brings down the size of things. Alright, so now let's take a look up at the top tool right here. This is called the forward warp tool. Now this tool can be a little tricky to use, but essentially the way it works is you just push and drag, and it drags parts of the photo and kind of like swirls things around, right? Pretty simple. However, you don't really want to use this tool without using two other tools that we're going to talk about right now, which are the thaw mask tool and the freeze mask tool. So I'm going to undo what I just did, and I'm going to select the freeze mask tool right here, okay? And what this does, which is so cool, is that it actually freezes certain parts of the photo in place. So for example, if I want to make this guy's chin super long, but I don't want it to affect, the rest of his body, what I would do is I would draw with the freeze tool in only the areas that I want to protect, right? And then I would go into my forward warp tool that we just used, drag down, right? And then I'm going to thaw that area out, and you see that it actually protected his whole chest area. After all that is done, you might decide, okay, I really like some of the things that I did, but the other things not so much. That is where we go into Reconstruct tool. So the Reconstruct tool is the second tool in the toolbar. And all this tool does is just bring things back to how they first started. So if you notice, I'm just going to kind of like sit there and drag the chin that I just did, and I might decide that actually maybe I overdid it a little bit and this looks a lot better. That's pretty much it for the Liquify tool. The last thing that you need to know is you have to commit to it before you can kind of like export and save it, right? So we just have to make sure we click this OK button right here to commit to the changes, and then it permanently changes the layer. So if you're not sure about it, I would recommend always making like a duplicate of the layer and working on that one so that you can kind of go back to the original if you have to. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for our photo manipulation tools. I'm so excited to see what you guys do with this. Have fun!